All right, everyone. Welcome to the workshop. We're very excited to be presenting this today. Thank you to Moov and everyone who's been putting this on. We are going to dive into how to launch regulated tokens on Solana specifically. And we have a fun workshop and exercise associated with it. So we'll introduce ourselves first. Here's Brianna.
Hi everyone, I'm Brianna. I'll be coming in later on in the workshop, but I work at Solana Foundation for developer relations, and yeah.
Great, and yeah, I'm Ilan, also at the Solana Foundation, doing things on the engineering side related to payments and commerce. Have a background in stablecoins specifically, but have also been working a lot with tokenized equities lately. And I'm excited to dive in here. So our agenda will start with some basic introduction, make sure you're up to speed on things on Solana, tokenization generally, why it should be important to you. We'll dig into the workshop, and then if there's time permitting, we'll have some Q&A. By the end, you should be able to know how to deploy tokens, what technologies are needed for regulated assets, and an overview of Solana programs and how to interact with them. So before we dive into the specifics of Solana, I would love to get a sense from you guys as to your familiarity already. So can you please raise your hand if you have done anything on blockchain, whether it's just doing random purchases of meme coins or using stable coins for something else, right? Okay, so actually a good handful, that's amazing. How about building on Solana? Do we have any folks that have? Okay, great, amazing. So we have a good amount of familiarity, but also interest in diving in further. So to talk a little bit about Solana, it's a high-performance chain, came out in about 2020. It's focused on finance and bringing all of finance on chain. It, instead of Ethereum and other networks, instead of focusing on scaling through L2s and building new blockchains on top of the others, the thesis here is that we can do a lot more scale in just one system. This doesn't mean that it's one server necessarily or anything like that. Like you can run it, you guys know more than anyone, monolithic applications doesn't necessarily mean that you have just one massive server. There's no components anywhere like spaghetti code. That's not how it has to be. But if you have these that are built properly, you can have a lot of scale while still having the consensus algorithm that provides the security required. And there are also a large focus on regulatory compliant tooling. It's been built based on practical experience instead of theoretical knowledge. And that, I think, is a really great way to build because you're constantly building for the market and for the demand that you see instead of for potential futures, right? So some key metrics right now, actually, I didn't update this, but last week, there was an upgrade to the system, so now it's processing 1,500 TPS on average, and it has been tested geographically distributed with multiple nodes up to 1 million TPS. Median transaction cost is under a cent, so it's actually 0.1 cents. Block finality, optimistically, is 1 second, and there are about 5,300 nodes running this. There's a number of different issuers that have already come online or will be coming online soon and have announced. They are here, as well as integrations from some of the largest payment providers. And also, it processes more transactions than all other chains combined. Right, like it is, from this perspective, undoubtedly ahead, right? We have, that green line is Solana, and you can see some of the other ones a bit below. Use cases we're gonna be talking about are in bold here, right? So tokenization for compliance specific purposes is in bold here, payments, asset tokenization, potentially IPOs on chain, which I would love to see. And then there are a number of aspects here that we won't dig into, but are extremely excited as well. So, tokenized assets. I hope you guys are here and are excited about it, which is probably why you're in this workshop. But it has been estimated to reach nearly 2 trillion in market cap by 2030 by McKinsey. This isn't just a random Twitter thread. This is like a real analysis of where things are going. And then also on stablecoins, right, we have a massive increase in adoption over the past couple of years. It currently, or in 2024, it was processing about half of Visa's total volume and 3x that of PayPal. And it has been increasing in importance for cross-border payments. In 2024, Bitso processed 10% of all US-Mexico cross-border payments, not just in the crypto world, but all of them on stablecoins. Cool. Decreased costs, increased customer base, increased global access, increased product offerings, and we'll see this continue to grow higher and higher. I'm trying to get through this part a little bit quickly so we can dig into the fun workshop part. And also, as we're going through this, please raise your hand and ask any questions. We want this to be interactive. We want you to feel part of the conversation. We're also seeing right now a massive shift in regulatory landscape in the US. Stablecoins, as most of you know, have had a legislation passed in order to make it officially visible and legal by the US government, which is great to see because I was previously at Paxos where we were sued by the SEC for running a stablecoin as a security, even though it wasn't. And I'm very happy to see this. It's extremely encouraging. Also, there's a lot of discussions about market structure, and things are moving forward pretty quickly as well there. So we'll dig into the launch playbook a little bit. The bold section here, again, is what we're going to be focusing on today. We're not going to be talking about how to get regulatory approval or how to manage your reserves if you are running a stablecoin or if you are tokenizing securities or anything, or how to do proper distribution and redemption. This stuff we'll leave to another conversation. If you're curious, please reach out. But let's focus on deployment and management. And so to do that, we first want to take a step back and look at the underlying technology. So on Solana, unlike on EVM and some other chains, there is no smart contract development for your token program. In Ethereum, you have to write your own smart contract for your own token that you deploy. On Solana, there are 2 token factories that exist that were written by Anza, which is the core team that works on the core protocol. One we internally call token keg because that's the first 8 characters of the address on chain. And the other is called token extensions. This other one is what we're going to be digging into more here. This is a newer one that came out more recently that provides a modular foundation for building assets. You get to choose which extensions you want to enable. So if you want, for example, permanent delegate, which allows you to do seizures of assets, you can have that. If you don't, you don't have to. If you want to have something called transfer hooks, which we'll get into, you can. You can customize this, and we're developing different templates for different common use cases that we're seeing that should cover 90% of the use cases that we're interacting with. And so you don't really have to know Rust. Today, you don't have to know Rust either. You just have to have a browser. And you don't have to do any custom smart contract logic unless you're doing some extremely advanced usage, which we will do some today. And yeah, so some features that I had mentioned, we have metadata that is detailed and expandable. We also have advanced permissioning. It's a single program architecture, so you don't have to write your own stuff. And there are embedded wallet integrations, and it's already supported by most of the different DeFi networks and wallets out there. So how do you do permissioning on a permissionless network? It sounds a little bit like an incoherent statement, but it is possible. It's actually easier to do it this way than to try to have anything permissionless on a permission network, right? If you start open, it's easy to close certain areas off. If you start closed, you can't have anything truly open. So there are 2 main ways to do this with token extensions. One is transfer hooks, which is an extension, and by that I mean an optional thing you can enable on the token that you're going to be creating that will run every single time you do a transfer. So if I transfer to Brianna, the program will first run and do whatever checks are created there. This is up to the developer or issuer to decide. This could be things like rate limits. It could be things like, hey, I need to, attest to this particular user for a jurisdiction or whatever it may be. You can have whatever compliance rules that you can put on chain, you can have it checked here. Today we're going to be looking at transfer hooks to enable an allow list, a closed-looped token that is only accessible by people on the list, and anyone else cannot actually interact with it. Another way to do this is something called the default account state, which is another extension that allows any new accounts to be created as frozen for that asset. Cannot be used unless manually allowed into the allow list, right? And this also can be done with block lists. There's a new RFC that we have out that we've been working on some tooling. Not going to get too much into that, but I'm very bullish on this way of doing things as well. It's a little bit cheaper. It's a little bit more out of the box. But we want to show the full power of transfer hooks, and so we're going to be digging into that today. So from my experience, and curious if anyone else has had anything else, but this is the main things that I have seen from regulators in terms of requirements on chain for assets that are regulated by them. So freeze and seize, allow list or block list, specifically block list for things like sanctioned addresses. KYC or AML controls usually at the edges when the issuer is actually providing the asset to the recipient at the beginning. Different legal entities have different opinions as to whether that's required on-chain. It also depends on which asset you are tokenizing. And then, of course, audits and transparency reports. This is all things that are, not all of them, but many of these are also included in the Genius Act as required for stablecoins within the US. And these are all enabled without much extra customization with token extensions. So that is my part. Now I'm going to hand it over to Bree to work on the rest. With you guys, I am going to be available to help with any technical difficulties. If you have anything that you want help with as you're working on the workshop, raise your left hand. And if you have a question, you can raise your right hand. We'll see if we can remember that from our perspective. But again, left hand, I'm confused. Right hand, I want to know something, okay? Great, so thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Ilan. So yeah, now we have a background on tokens on Solana and how token extensions work. So we're going to do a quick little mini workshop before diving into working with regulated tokens, just to have a little bit more background. So first we're going to go to this bit.ly link. It's Solana_DevCon. And where this is going to take you is our playground environment. So our playground environment is very similar to just having the Solana tool suite installed on your computer. It has slight differences, but this way you can interact with Solana without having to install anything on your computer. This link is going to have a smart contract already written for you, which I'll talk about in a second. But when you first go to the playground, you're going to need to create a wallet. So you can see at the bottom, I already have mine. If I click into it, it'll take me to an explorer. This is a block explorer showing you on-chain data. So this is my account that exists on-chain and all of the transactions that have been ran with this wallet. So, yes?
I cannot access it.
You can't, okay.
Maybe that's
Is anyone able to access it? Okay, if not, if you go to, oh, good? Okay, cool. Okay, nice. Cool. So in the meantime, as I'm talking through this, you can start creating your wallet. So what we're going to do first is just using the CLI. If you install the Solana tool suite on your computer, you can do this straight in your terminal, but we're going to create our first token. So creating a token on Solana, as Ilan talked about earlier, you don't have to actually write smart contract code. It's just one CLI command to create a token. So we're going to do that. Let me zoom in a bit just to make sure you can see. If you go down to the terminal section of this playground, it already has the Solana tool suite installed. So there's this one command, it's called SPL token, and you can run create token and just hit enter. And you can see it's loading the SPL token CLI, and it created my token. So this public key that was generated is the address of the token that I just generated. Now, Ilan talked earlier about how there's two separate programs that create tokens. You have the token keg, which is our basic SPL token, and that's what we just created. So we now all created our own tokens. You can actually check it. So we're connected to the DevNet RPC, as you can see on the bottom. If I click this and I go into explorer.solana.com, make sure you update your RPC to be on DevNet. But if I just paste in my token address, you can now see the token that you created. We're all gonna have a different public key because we all ran a different command to create our own token. So this is just your basic SPL token. Most tokens that you interact with on Solana today are your basic SPL token. However, this workshop is about creating tokens that meet business compliance. So we have this superset of SPL, which is our token extensions. And there's about 15, give or take, available token extensions today that you can add onto your token to have additional code that exists within the token. And yes? Got it, yes. So if you run Solana airdrop 2 in your terminal, it's going to request. I've done this several times today, so I met my rate limit, but you guys shouldn't have. If anyone is getting a rate limit, you are? Okay, so if you do that, you can go to Faucet. So if you go to Solana Faucet, right here, there's a DevNet Faucet. You can paste in your wallet address and then just airdrop to your funds. This is gonna link your GitHub. If you don't have a GitHub, then we're going to use, we have a custom DevNet RPC for the next set of this workshop, so we can create a token once we get over there.
Also, if you are unable to get sold for the testnet, which we're working on, I can come around and teach you doing this.
So how much do you get here?
I would just say 2. Gas fees on Solana are pretty low. You're probably going to spend like 0.01 Solana on this transaction to create the token, but I just default always airdrop 2 to myself.
When I created the Playground wallet, it has buy rate sold.
Yeah, I thought it auto airdrop to yourself, so you should be good on Playground.
Yeah, look at the bottom left corner and see if you have a balance in the Playground wallet.
Yeah, so you can see. So if you run SPL token create token, is anyone getting an error with that? Okay. Cool. On DevNet. Make sure your RPC is on DevNet. And you should have Sol at the bottom. If you don't, you're going to want to airdrop to yourself. Yep. So if you don't see this at the bottom, the connect to Playground, your DevNet, your address, and then I think it should be 5 Sol at default, you may need to hit the import-export of this program into your own custom Solana Playground environment.
How do you get the lib.rs?
Yep, so right here is in your source folder is your librs. If you just went directly to Solana Playground and not the bit.ly link, it's not gonna have this. The bit.ly link already has the program preloaded into it. Yep. Okay, awesome. Anyone still having issues? Yeah, so the airdrop isn't gonna come with this one because there's a rate limit that has been hit. So you guys should be good. Our next set of the workshop has a custom DevNet RPC where the rate limits are turned off. We won't have that issue. Okay, so that was creating, yes?
Can you talk a little bit more about the
Yeah, for sure. So what happens when you do SPL token create token? It's all the default settings for an SPL token. So I think it will work in airdrop, but if I do Solana display and the token address, it should return. Okay, it doesn't. So what we're gonna do is click onto the token that we created here, and we're gonna look at it in the block explorer. So back here, here's my token. You can see the decimals are 9. You can see the mint authority is my wallet address that generated the token, and you can see the address of it. The current supply is 0 because we haven't actually minted any tokens. So we're going to talk through in a bit the difference between a mint account and a token account. What we generated here was the mint account. The mint account stores all of the global information for a token, and it doesn't actually store tokens. So you want to generate a token account, which is connected to a wallet address that actually stores tokens, which we're going to do in a little bit. So that's why it has a current supply of 0. We haven't minted any yet. All this is doing is generating all of the information for the token itself. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to Playground. Okay. Now that we did that, we're going to talk about if I wanted to create a token with token extensions. We're not going to do that right now. There's already been one created for you for this workshop. But all you're doing is adding the separate token program for token extensions and then adding the flags of the token, the extension that you want. And we'll talk through a few of those. But just a little bit more background information before we go into the workshop itself. This right here in your librs file is a basic Solana program. It's just a CRUD app, like create, read, update, delete. Those are the instructions that exist within this program. I think it's probably the easiest way to look at smart contracts on Solana in the beginning is a CRUD app, because it's how do I store data on chain. So I'm creating an account, updating the account, and deleting an account. And this is using the Anchor framework, which is a framework built on top of the native Rust programming for Solana to help make things a lot easier to build. So you have all these macros, like you have this program macro, and what that does is it's just saying, this is going to be my entry point onto the Solana blockchain, and all these instructions that exist inside are the instructions I'm gonna run. You have this account macro, and that is generating a new account on chain. So what are accounts? Accounts on Solana are how we store data. If you're coming from other chains like Ethereum, data is usually stored in the smart contract itself. On Solana, it's stored in accounts. So this is how we store data. And then all of the data, like how we want to actually interact with the accounts, is this last macro that's used in the smart contract, and that's the derive accounts macro. So here I'm saying, like in this instruction, I want to initialize a new account. I want to define the seeds and the bump. This is creating a program-derived address. And you're specifying what seeds you want to be encoded within that program-derived address. You're specifying who the payer is to be able to pay the rent on chain to have an account. And you're specifying the space. So space and payer, anytime you create an account on chain, you have to calculate how much space it's going to take up, because you're going to have to pay for rent in a correlation of the amount of space that it takes up on chain. So this is just a basic smart contract, and we're just going to see how do we build and deploy it. If you have the Solana tool suite on your computer, it's just 2 CLI commands. Here it's buttons. So you can run builds, and it's going to build the program. It compiles the eBPF, and then you can hit deploy, and that's going to deploy it on DevNet. So that's just building and deploying a program. It is going to take a while. Rust takes some time to compile, and all of us running this at the same time is going to take some time on the Wi-Fi. Yes?
At the very top, there was ID.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. Good call out. So this declare ID is actually the program ID of your address. So when I deploy this on chain, my program is going to have this address correlated to it. So think of it like a key value pair. This is the key, the value is my program that's deployed on chain. So anytime I want to look this up in the Solana Block Explorer, I'm just going to paste this address. So anytime you're creating this, you're just specifying what you want your program address to be.
You create order.
Sorry?
You create this order.
So it's generated when you build it. And when you're using the Anchor framework, you run Anchor build, and it generates a new public key for you. So you don't have to worry about it. Usually when I default, I just add a bunch of ones in here, and then when I run Anchor build, it generates an accurate one for me. Okay, so this is kind of all the background information. Yes?
So in the day, Ethan was saying that there's two ways to create tokens, with the smart contract or without. This, what we're looking at at AWS is like the smart contract version of a token.
So, no, a little different. There's two ways to create tokens, meaning there's two different token programs that exist. There's the token keg program, which is your basic SPL token. Then there is the token extensions program, where you can enable additional extensions at the time of mint on a token. The compliant token that we're gonna work through in the workshop has token extensions built on top of it. So when you're generating those, you're going to just add flags of what extension you want in the CLI. So it look like SPL token, create token, a flag for the program ID of token extensions, and then a flag for enable permanent delegate. That's an example of an extension that we're gonna be using. So the reason we're practicing deploying a smart contract is one of the extensions is transfer hooks, which we're going to be using. So transfer hooks is a program that's deployed on chain that has custom logic, and anytime I want to transfer that token to another address, it's going to take the instruction that's in that program and run it. So the instruction has to run and successfully finalize for the token to transfer to another wallet. So the example that we're going to be using for the token extension for transfer hooks is going to be an allow list. And we'll talk about that more later. But this is just showing when you're building a program and deploying it, now we have a program on chain, and this program ID is what you're going to specify when you create the token as your flag for the transfer hook. Yeah, so that's the background information. We can jump into the workshop, but I just want to see, does anyone have questions on what we've done so far? Sorry?
For the list, for a raw list, I create this list or have like OFAC comments?
Yeah, so we're going to walk through an example of that, and we'll go through. The question was, who creates the allow list and how is it managed? So if everyone can go to the next link, which is a bit.ly link of fintech_bounty. And we're going to have a little challenge where we're going to look at a token on chain and find out someone that has been incorrectly using this token, and we're going to revoke their access. But we'll also talk through a few use cases along the way. So I'm going to go to the bounty page as well. There's some onboarding prompting you on the bounty page. Let's just make sure, did everyone get there? Can you raise your hand if you're on this page with me? Okay, cool. Anyone having issues with the link? Yeah, it is a bit slow, so I'll just give it a second. While this is loading for everyone, I'll talk through the onboarding for this workshop. But basically, it's an interactive way to see a use case of using a regulated token. And these are the token extensions that were added to it. So like I said earlier, there's about 15, maybe 13 token extensions that are currently live. We picked 3 of them that we thought would fit this use case well. So we have the allow list transfer hook. The allow list program I'll go through later on if we have time. But as of now, the program's been deployed on chain, and the allow list has been added to the token. So what the transfer hook does is anytime you make the transfer, it has to process the instruction in the custom program. This program is an allow list that was generated. So to be able to make the transfer, you have to be on the allow list. If not, it'll error. Another extension we added was the permanent delegate. So the permanent delegate gives one wallet special access where they can burn or transfer any tokens on chain. So we'll go through why do we need that. So one of the things is, let's say you have a site that you're token gating, which this site is, and I want to revoke someone's access because they're no longer a part of the company anymore. Well, I can go in as the permanent delegate and burn the token that they have in their wallet, and now they no longer have access. So sometimes tokens will be used not for monetary reasons, but for access reasons. And then another extension that we use here is a metadata extension. And what this does is it just adds additional data natively in the token. So here we named it a compliance coin. We gave it a symbol of CC, and we added a link to Solana.com within the token. So these are the extensions we're using. Now, we're going to create another wallet. Here on the site, there's a burner wallet that you can create, so you don't have to download a wallet onto your machine. Yes.
Regarding that remote access, imagine there is a client, a person I know, it's my fintech, with a balance of $1 million, and they receive a judge for the court asking me as a fintech to block $500,000. Can I do this?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do I have the access, for example, to block balance there for third party?
So you have.
Court is asking me to block that money because they knew that's a bad guy doing something bad there.
Yeah, so you have the access as the permanent delegate to transfer or burn the tokens. So if the transfer is happening to a wallet that you don't want to happen, you can transfer that back. So you can revert the transfer.
Good.
Okay, so now everyone, if you could just create a burner wallet. I am the permanent delegate for this token, so I'm going to select my wallet that was already being used. And I'm going to make sure I'm on the right account, because I'm not. Okay. So this is all the onboarding. Here's the journey of what we're doing. We're creating a wallet. We're going to make sure everyone here joins the allow list. We're going to receive compliance coins, and then we're going to do a little bounty hunt to find out who is the person that shouldn't have access. So if you just click through all of the onboarding, it takes you to the challenge, explains that we're going to find out who this sanctioned entity is and report it for a bounty. But if you hit get started, you're going to see a different page than me. So when I click on it, I can see that I can submit bounties, I can look at the token information. When everyone else clicks on it, you're not going to see that. And the reason is that the page itself is token gated. So you have to have this compliance coin in your wallet to be able to access the website. So this is another use case of having token extensions enabled on your token, is just token gating a website. Does anyone have any questions on that part?
Should we create the burner wallet before getting started, or is that going to be part of the process?
Yes, create the burner wallet. Okay, so I'll just give everyone a second to get to this page. It's not going to look the same as mine, but when you get to this page, just look up so I can see everyone's there. Okay, cool. Awesome. Now, your page is probably prompting you that you're not on the allow list, and you need to get on there. So there's another tab, allow list request, and you're going to follow through these steps. As you're following through the steps, I'm going to explain a little more about a mint account and a token account. But you have your wallet. Now you're going to go down here and click create your token account. So the mint account is the global information of a token. There is one mint account per token, and it's going to hold like the total supply. It's going to hold how many decimals are on the token, if any extensions are enabled on the token. So all extensions do have to be enabled at the time of mint. You can't add them on later. This is more of a security purpose, because you don't want to have a token and then someone later adds on a permanent delegate and you don't know about it. So this is the difference between a mint account and a token account. So you're going to create your token account by just clicking this create token account button. You can see I already have one, so that's good. And once you have your token account, there's just one last step, and you're going to submit your wallet to an allow list. So if you click on this allow list form, if everyone can just paste in, there's a wallet address here, you're just going to copy it and paste in. And while you're doing that, I'm going to show you what the admin page would look like for this token. So just to recap, you are on the allow list request page. You have your wallet generated. I'd recommend generating a burner wallet. You're going to go and create a token account. So now you have a token account that's able to receive tokens for your wallet. And then you're going to just copy this wallet address and paste it into the Excel sheet here. So why am I collecting this? Well, I need to update the token. So this is an admin view of the token. And this is a way to manage your token. Because my wallet is the permanent delegate on this token. I have a special view of token information and how to manage it. So here I can mint additional tokens to a wallet. I can send tokens, which I'll be sending tokens to each of you. I can burn tokens, and I can also update the allow list. So you can see the current allow list has several wallets on it, but none of your wallets are on it, so we're gonna add those. And what this is doing is it's calling an instruction on the transfer hook program that's been deployed on chain that's updating the state of this program to now have additional wallets in the state that it's going to check to see if your wallet's on the allow list or not. So if everyone can just paste in, while I'm waiting for everyone to get their address in, if you're stuck, ask Ilan to come around. If you have any questions for me, just let me know. Yes?
Did we need to put allow? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I can just drag it down if that's easier. Yeah, so what this is doing, there's a few different commands that are enabled on the transfer hook. One is allow, one is block, and one is remove. So if I wanted to remove you, I would just change this next to allow, make it remove instead, and it's going to take your wallet off of the allow list. Okay.
It's always a low block, you don't have anything like go to human revision, right?
Sorry?
You don't have anything like go to human revision.
I can't hear you. What'd you say?
Is there anything like instead of allow a block to go to a human revision, some person revision?
Yeah, you could. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing now, right? Like I'm looking through the wallets and assuring that that's the correct wallet before I actually process the instruction. So by just putting your wallet address on here, it's not gonna change anything. I'm gonna download this data, and I'm going to input this data here into this UI, and when I click Apply Changes,
But there's just a loud and block, there is no like word. Like one that I'm not sure if it's supposed to be blocked or to be allowed, so I want somebody else person to revise and do.
yeah, so since this is a custom program, you can write whatever you want, right? So the transfer hook, all it's doing is making a call into the program deployed on chain. So this is just how we wrote it, but you can write it however you want. So if you want to add that functionality, you can.
Like you receive the funds, but you always block the funds until
Yep.
somebody releases.
Yeah, so pretty much anything's possible with a transfer hook because you're writing your own custom program and deploying it on chain. So if you want to add that, you're good to go.
Yeah, because I was served Bank of America, and there's a street in Brazil and in Cuba. So everybody in that address will receive SWIFT, they block, just because there's Cuba in the name of the street.
Okay.
They release. They go, well, that's fake blocking, so they release it.
Okay.
So sometimes they are unsure they block just in case, then they do a revision. They are released.
Yeah, so you can add that, definitely. Okay. Now, is anyone still adding their wallet? This is your last chance. Are we good to go? Okay. So I'm just going to download this. And I'm going to drag it into our So now we have all the additional wallets. I'm going to click Apply Changes, and what this is going to do is update the state of our allow list to now have all of your wallets. Okay.
Can a question kind of use a signature to create the allow list?
What is the error? Let's try again. Whoa. think it's too large?
Yeah, one of the wallets is invalid.
Ah, okay. Okay, so what we're gonna do
Enter the message and see the number removed.
is I'll just do one at a time, because there aren't that many. We'll figure out where the wrong address is. Okay. So all of these we did earlier. And let's see. The edits from today. Started at 6U. Okay. So while I'm doing this, Ilan, do you have anything you want to chat about?
I believe the error message shows the number, just remove that one.
Oh, it showed which one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, well, it wasn't that one.
Finding the sanctioned address in real time.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, do you guys have any questions on any of the things? We've been going pretty quick through all of this. So happy to address some of your direct questions, or I can just yap about stuff, yeah.
What are the differences relative to, this experiment that we're doing with the online versus, local development, building these up? Right now what I'm seeing is a lot of things are managed automatically in the website.
Found it.
And so what are the differences as far as local items that we need to think about if we try to move this from this workshop into practicing on our own?
The CLI that we've been using is actually less full-featured than if you were to do it on your own computer. It's an older version of the SPL token command line interface, and the newer ones does allow for more of the extension work that you would probably need to do. You have more control over which private keys you're using, right? You can either have locally created ones. Also local network, you can have your own version of Solana running locally, so you can run tests against that instead of having to run tests against DevNet, which is, of course, far more helpful. More debugging tools. It's actually way better to do it on local development. We're doing it here for this because we know, A, there's a lot of restrictions on people's computers for installing things, and then also it's just a lot easier to get up and running. But I would recommend doing it on your local development machine instead of on the website.
Is it good for Mac too, or need to be Linux?
So you can, the question was if this is good for Mac, Linux, and when the distributions. I code on a Mac and I've never had any issues. We have folks at the company that also primarily use Linux without any problems. I don't know of any devs that use Windows in the Solana stuff, but probably. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I clicked through in Solana Explorer to see the token that we're working with here.
Yeah, yeah.
Where can I see the code of the base or the extensions?
So you can see there is an extensions tab to see which extensions are enabled for that. They call it a mint instead of a token. And that will show you, we can also show that on the screen in a few minutes. That'll show which ones are enabled for this particular token, including the permanent delegate and so on. You can't actually see the code that is deployed for the transfer hook because we haven't verified it and uploaded it anywhere. And so it is just bytecode, right? That's visible on the Explorer.
So there's nothing human readable on chain.
Not with this. We haven't verified and submitted that. But you can do that.
So how does that mechanism work? You will provide the source code that compiles to the bytecode, and then
You verify that you verify that the code that's deployed matches, like you sign it and verify it and submit it, and then you can see the code. Not on the Explorers, I don't think. I haven't been working on that. This guy Noah on the team has been as much, but I think it just kind of like verifies what's in GitHub at a commit. Is I'm pretty sure how it works.
And that's Rust, right? The language.
Yes. Yeah. All smart contracts are written in Rust for the most part. I think there are other ways to compile from other languages, but the feature set is not as complete. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we updated the allow list. If your address isn't on here, then it was an invalid address, and try again. Let me know if you update the Excel sheet, and I'll add you in. But in the meantime, I'm going to now airdrop everyone a token. So now you'll have it. So I'll go back to manage token. And I'm going to,
Which page are we supposed to be on?
Still on the allowance?
yep. You can click back over to the bounty page, and you'll still see nothing. But as you get your token airdropped to you, it will update, and now you'll actually have access to the bounty page. So I'm going to send everyone a token. I'll do it individually again since a couple of these addresses weren't valid. So, Ilan, if you want to keep talking.
Yeah, any other questions, or I can chat about development or programs in general on Solana, or some tokenization things. Yeah.
On average, if you transfer money on Solana, does it happen within seconds or minutes? Is there any
For a transfer?
for a transfer?
So the question is, how fast are transfers on Solana? New blocks are created every 400 milliseconds, and they're actually done continuously. There are things called shreds that basically it's creating the block as it receives the new transactions. And the optimistic finality is under a second. Under a second, yeah.
So it's like, it's good to be in if you're going to the subway station,
Correct.
I can tap and then open the turnstile.
Yeah, and that's today, right? So we are working on a new consensus algorithm called Alpenglow, which will drastically reduce this even further. Do you remember the numbers? Is it 20 milliseconds per block eventually?
I think
for
15,
Alpenglow?
yeah.
Yeah, and then finality also in, do you remember Alpenglow finality?
150 milliseconds?
Yeah, 150 milliseconds, which at this point we're fighting speed of light, right? Like a classic saying at Solana is our competition is physics, because we're literally fighting against the fact that it takes, I think, 200 milliseconds to send a packet from one part of the world all the way around. Yeah.
And the cost is going to be like
The same or cheaper.
1 cent.
Yeah. The cost will stay the same or be cheaper, yeah. The thought is we just enable a ton of transactions and are able to provide value to validators who are actually receiving the rewards from transactions in volume instead of based on specific expenses.
Finality time of the new consensus?
So it should be 150 milliseconds.
Has there been a lot about the network times of like upstream requirements, like the card network requirements, of what the compatibility between those items is today, or not?
Network times meaning like,
Essentially, response requirements of like as a holder of an item that has a theoretical value, you would need to do at least 2 transaction sets that I can see in order to exchange to an off-chain asset from an on-chain asset, correct?
so the question is response times and managing things that go from on-chain to off-chain?
Yes.
So, I mean, everything we can control is on-chain. We can't really control the off-chain, and that's usually where things take the longest, right? Like banks don't operate on the weekends. Yet, we will. And I hope you guys are all working on that, because that'd be great. Yeah, and so, I mean, that's usually where the major latency is. And so, like, honestly, in my opinion, I'm trying to find more and more ways to make the on-chain economy useful so we can keep more things on-chain to keep it so we can at least, for those use cases, really take advantage of it. I know Jeff, if you watched the keynote, was talking about agentic payments. I think that's going to be massively interesting in the on-chain space as well, right? If you're able to enable anyone. I mean, we basically just created a very lightweight bank account for everyone with one click, right? Like, that's insane. That's so cool. And so you can do that and provide that to all the different agents or to consumers who want to provide like a certain access for a certain website. You can gate it down to individual things as well, or provide certain delegations. Hey, you know, this website can spend $100 a month or whatever to provide some safety for yourself. There's a lot of things that we can do in the near future that I think will massively like grow the space. Yeah.
And by reclaim, do we take ownership? So like when we do these items and you do like for a claim, does that return ownership of the asset value to the minter?
Reclaim?
So like there were a couple of UIs here where there was like burn and items like that. Does that
Yeah, so the question is about if you do like a seize of funds or burn of funds or anything, how do you manage this as an issuer? So there's a few aspects. One is just like the role itself. All of these different token extensions, or at least the vast majority of them, have independent authorities, right? So you can have separate wallet addresses that can represent a multi-sig, so multiple people that have to approve a particular action, like a seizure, right? That's a very restricted action. You should have many people involved in order to make that happen. And then beyond that, beyond just the on-chain risk controls, is also like, okay, let's say you're an issuer of stablecoins and you have a reserve. How do you actually make sure that whatever you're doing on-chain has that bridge back and forth? That's like the audit reports. You can do continuous. That would be amazing. If banks had more access to APIs for those different QSIPs and things, like then you're able to provide in real time, hey, this particular stablecoin is backed by these treasuries at all times, right? Like, and providing that and being transparent about it is probably the best way right now. In the future, hopefully we can have real controls between the on and off chain, but that's where it's a bit harder because it's a little looser.
So I can self-tokenize my asset if I want.
Yeah, you can.
Simple.
Yeah.
So I don't need to tokenize the company. I just go here, I tokenize my house, and that's it.
Yeah, so the question is, can I self-tokenize whatever I want? And absolutely, but the problem is, of course, trust, right? Like, people are going to have to trust you, and that's why we have things like the Genius Act or others, and regulators and compliance and everything. But for friends, if you wanted to, like have a poker game where you create a contract and automatically pays out to whatever, like you could. Or if you wanted to tokenize your own house and get some friends to buy in because you don't want to, get a HELOC on your house, but you are willing to open it up to your friends, yeah, sure, yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Cool, are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, thank you for the
so
questions, they've been great.
I sent tokens to all of the wallet addresses that were valid. So now if you refresh the page, you should be able to access the bounty page. If you're not, raise your hand, we'll come around, figure out what went wrong in the wallet creation, and we'll just paste in your new wallet address underneath this black line, and I'll update the allow list with the new addresses. If you're able to access the bounty page, you're going to try to figure out the bounty. So we want to figure out where there is a sanctioned entity. We created some transactions on chain yesterday, so ignore all the ones that I just did right now and go back to yesterday's date on the Block Explorer. There is a token information button. I can click into this, and it's going to show all of the transactions with this token. So all of these you can see just happened during this workshop. Go to before that, go to the 20 hours ago, look through all of these. If you click into the actual transaction, you can inspect it and see information of the transaction. So let's see. Where's the memo?
I don't know if this one had one. This is from 2 hours ago.
Did I click in the wrong one?
Maybe. Hopefully we didn't click on that.
You want to look at the transaction history?
I'm just trying to
Yeah,
follow
so we've fabricated a scenario. In reality, right, you would have a compliance team or like a on-chain transaction monitoring company like Chainalysis or Mini TRM or whoever else that monitors different illicit activity and is able to either respond to new sanctioned addresses that are provided by OFAC or whoever else, or to hacks, or to activity that happens on the dark markets, right? Like, you would, in reality, use that as your intelligence source. But for this fun demo, we have added something that we're calling, or that is just like an instruction that has a memo and some data. And so every single transaction, if you wanted, you could include this memo program to say whatever you want. Payment for invoice number 7, right? You can add whatever metadata you want to any particular transaction. And we use this as a fun way for you guys to be able to explore on-chain, read the different transactions, and look through the different memos to see if you see any that feel like you may want to sanction it.
Yep, so when you go through the transaction, you have the memo program, and it's going to have data within the memo program. The way this works, if I go back to when I actually sent the tokens, there's this optional memo field. You can also make it required, but for now it's optional. And this, if you fill out the memo field and you submit the transaction, it's going to show the memo program. Too many tabs open. Here you go.
This memo is for additional transaction for this one.
So the memo program can be attached to any transaction. Like the instruction for it can be attached to any transaction.
So the data within this transfer was
And
actually put in as a memo for transferring this specific token to another address.
The vast majority of these memos were just taken from like public notes on my Venmo friends. So, yeah.
In my case, it
So
could
do
be
we
the
just
QR code.
submit the transaction?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could do an invoice,
So
and that's
when you
part of
submit the
Solana.
bounty, if you go back to this bounty page, there's going to be a wallet address. So this is the address that you think deserves to be sanctioned. So there's going to be one memo specifically within the Block Explorer that's probably shouldn't have access to this token.
You found it?
Can you go back to the Block Explorer? So where are you
Yep.
looking?
Here, I have a lot of Block
Copy the
Explorer tabs
address.
open. Let me exit all of these and show you the flow. So if you go to the bounty page, the token information, open Block Explorer, this is going to take you directly to the compliance coin token. So now I'm at this page. It's going to take a second to load. This is the compliance coin token. You can verify it. If I click over to extensions, you can see all the extensions that were added. If I go into token metadata, you can see the name. This is the compliance coin. And just for additional information here, you can see the transfer hook, and this is the program ID of the program I deployed on chain for the transfer. And then the permanent delegate you can see is my address. But going back to the transfers tab, this is where you'll be inspecting. These are all the transfers that happened with this token recently. All of the ones that happened today took place while I was sending all of you tokens to be able to access this page. So you're going to want to go back to the 20 hours ago, and this was Ilan adding some transactions with some fun memos. So as you look through here, you'll find one of the memos of someone that should not have access to your company's compliant token. Once you find that, you can go back here and submit your findings. You'll just paste in the wallet address that you think deserves to be sanctioned, what your evidence is, and submit it. Now, one thing I want to talk about with this program, this is also an on-chain program. This is a smart contract that you're interacting with. And what this is actually the CRUD app that we talked about earlier. It's just basic saving information to an account. And all of these submissions down here are live submissions that you've been submitting throughout this workshop. You can see that they've all been submitted today. And you can see the wallet address that submitted them. And what this is new accounts created with the CRUD app program with new data. So all this is just a basic CRUD app on chain, being able to collect and store data, and then you're able to query it from the Solana blockchain. And one thing that's added to this CRUD app is it's token gated. You can only submit a bounty if you own the token, meaning you're on the allow list, you have special access to be able to make these assumptions about accounts that could be sanctioned. So it's going to take one token from your wallet to be able to submit the transaction. So if you're not on the allow list, you're not going to be able to submit the transaction because you don't have the right access. Okay.
Okay, so we find the one and then we copy the address.
Yep, so just paste the address in here, and then explain why you think this address deserves to be sanctioned, and then submit it.
Just for my, sorry. 'cause
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
my first time. So in the Token Explorer, or in the Explorer, Blockchain Explorer, which, if I was looking at one of, could you pick one just because it doesn't have?
Yeah, so we'll click on this, just a random transaction.
What's the address that I'm looking for? Is it the first one on the token?
That's a great question. So you can see the change. So this address here had a balance change of minus 72 tokens. This one had a balance change of plus 72 tokens. So the minus is the one that was sending them, and then the plus is the one that was receiving.
Okay. All right. So where's the
Yep.
page to submit the findings?
So on the bounty page, the bounty program, this is the one that you've been interacting with the whole workshop so far, where you submitted the allow request, created the burner wallet. On the bounty program tab, you can just submit a bounty. Okay, that means you don't have the tokens. Did you airdrop to yourself? There's like, okay, you have that, and you created a token account as well? Okay. Can you just paste your address under, oh, this one? 5S? Okay, let's make sure you're up there. Okay, I'll add that in right now. Yep. Okay, so let's get this address added.
It's telling me it's failing to submit the bounty.
Interesting.
Go ahead. You got the right hand. Or the left? The right, left hand. Okay. So I'm pretty sure this is the token.
Once you see it, you know
And this is the account.
I can't submit it, but I have to.
Well, we're just talking about this. Sorry. That's the one that it was subtracted from. The one that received is over its line.
I'm not sure the actual.
Okay.
Who's doing the reverse?
Yeah, I think everything else that's submitted is fine. That's submitted. Yeah, and you can go back and check it. You have the website.
Found it. I got mine. Screenshot.
You got it? Good? Okay. There's one more to send tokens to, and then you should be good. Okay. You should refresh and be good.
If we refresh, we can hit it.
Oh, sorry, hit what?
We're not being able to submit right now.
Okay, cool. Wonder why.
So it's missing, saying that the error is missing account in the JSON RPC response.
Okay, well, mine worked. Crazy. It's your computer. I don't know.
Read it back to it works on my machine. I love it.
Okay.
True tech support at its finest is all without it.
Sorry, one more time. Jiggle the handle.
How did you see the error when you tried to submit the bounty?
Magic. Just console.
Go. No. It's okay. I don't believe me.
All right. I'll believe you.
Simulated
Wait a second, that was terrible. You were supposed to be in the Solana space, and you just said you trust me. What?
'Cause you got to check the permanent delegate, who it really is. Okay. Well, I'm going to just tell you who it is. So there was a transaction that happened on chain, and it said, "You've been hacked, LOL." So we're just taking that address, or I hacked you, or something like that. Yeah. Hacked this account. There we go. So if you found that, then you found the correct bounty. I'm going to show an example of what would happen if I want to burn the user's tokens. So I'm going to go to this bounty page, and I'm going to, I have the sanctioned wallet, so I'm also the bad person and the permanent delegate. But we'll switch over to the sanctioned wallet, and I'm going to copy the address, and oh, I can't be on both. Okay. Well, I'll just show it separately then. So right now I have access. Now I'm going to switch over to my permanent delegate address, and I will, actually, there are two different websites, so it'll probably work. Okay, so on this one, the D6 wallet is the permanent delegate address, and on this one, okay, I'll switch over when it's ready. I'm just going to go down, and I'll paste into the burn tokens. Now, I need to figure out the burn amount. So what I'm going to do is use the Explorer, and figure out how many tokens this address has, because I want to revoke all of their tokens because the website is token gated. So if they have even one token, they'll be able to access it. So we'll go here, and good, I'll switch that.
Fine. So we could know like infinite burn?
No, no. Yeah, you'd have to like specify the amount. So I'm going to search here for this address and figure out how many tokens they have. Let this load, and you can see the tokens in the wallet. And here they have a total of 300. So I am going to burn 300 tokens from this wallet.
What happens if you put more information?
It won't work, yeah.
So, but theoretically, if they were making a so is there a race condition here? Where theoretically they could be like getting more tokens as you burn these tokens?
Yeah, so the question is there a race condition if you're trying to burn? Like if this is a real scenario, let's say it's a hack and things are moving quickly, what you would do is you would freeze the address immediately.
Okay.
And then, I mean, likely, like at least historically when I've had to deal with this, you would freeze, you get a court order to actually seize because they're two separate things that have to happen. And then when that comes through, you can then go ahead and do the full burn.
Yep. And also, since this is an allow list, you can take them off of the allow list first and then
And
burn
they
the
can't do it.
tokens, because once they're off the allow list, no one can transfer tokens to them.
And the
Okay.
burn is burning it out of the like the hacker's account, but that doesn't affect the total supply that can be minted.
The total supply, so the question is, does it affect total supply as well when you burn? And yes, it would. It would decrement that as well.
So you'd have to figure out how to connect that to your treasury if you were doing
Yeah.
it for a stable asset.
And then for the treasury management side of things, usually what people care about is that you have at least the amount off-chain than you do on-chain. And so if you have excess off-chain, that's fine. Actually, all stablecoins have excess off-chain than on-chain because they're like earning money off of yield, right? So they have more in their treasuries. But yeah.
I mean, they're not fully liquid, right? All these treasuries.
Well, I mean, most of the time they're overnight treasuries or like fairly accessible. So for example, when I was at Paxos, BUSD was one of the white label stable coins that we had managed, which was Binance's. That was the one that I mentioned was sued by the SEC. And we unwound billions of dollars worth of assets within a number of months with no problems. Yeah. How did we do it? We had an amazing treasury team. This guy, Derek, is just great. Yeah.
Cool, so you can see now, I refresh the Explorer, and this user has a balance of 0 tokens. So if I go back to this bounty page and I switch over to the sanctioned wallet, my access is now revoked. So you can see, very easy to token gate a website to make sure that anyone that accesses this website has the correct access, and very easy to revoke someone's access if they do not follow the needed compliance.
So I'm going to ask a dumb question.
Please.
You're token gating on your website, so that means that you have some delegate of your public key encrypted into a cookie of some sort to be able to do that?
So how are we able to tell? So at the top right, we see the address at the top right. So that's like connecting your wallet is what it's called. And so the browser has access to understand the public key that is connected and can request signatures from that wallet that is connected as well.
Great, so then you're setting that as like some, because for the website to know, you have to be choosing to send some header that knows the public key to the website.
Yeah, so the question is like, for the website to know, they have to know the address. Yes, yeah, but you can also say without connecting and having proof. There's also things where you can prove that the wallet that's connecting is legit by having them sign a transaction before giving them access. And so then you prove that they have the private key that backs that public key. So you can make it far more like legit than what we've done here. And then also beyond just token gating for a website, this is also literally token gating access to the token. So if this is let's say a stable coin used by banks for interbank transfer and you only want the banks to have access to it, this would be a way to do that, right? Because only those on the allow list are able to interact with the token.
In the wallet connection process, you mentioned signing a transaction. Is that
So the question is about signing a transaction in order to, quote, sign in. Yeah, you can sign a message, you can sign you just need something that you're able to do the reverse, like, check to say, like, hey, is this a valid signature for this public key from this private? Yeah.
One more question. So we just saw this burn process. Is there a mechanism to claw back tokens rather than burning them?
So the question is there a way to claw back, not just burn? Yes, the permanent delegate has the ability to transfer or burn funds from any address, and this includes transfers to do a clawback. And if you wanted to enforce that, like, only clawbacks are allowed, right, you can build mechanisms to do that. Or, like, you only reverse it. Like, there are ways to embed that sort of thing. Yeah, here, and then.
Okay, some balance you mentioned about credentials, like I can use Solana as a kind of login to authenticate myself. Can I use it also for key value purposes, like to create a directory, like my email is that address, my phone number that address, to create a kind of cell that's public for everybody to use?
So the question is, can you create like a online registry of addresses or whatever you want? Absolutely. So in a lot of different blockchains, there are things called like blank blockchain name service. And so for Solana, there's like a Solana name service where you can register an address to be associated with, like, mine is Ilan G at .sol, for example, if you guys want to send me money. And you can also use that to actually manage things like that bounty submission, or anything you want, right? You have state that is available on chain through these different accounts, and you can add any data that you want there. And we could jump over to that unless there are other questions. No? Okay. All right, great. Do you want to do we have time? I think we have
To do what?
10:30. Yeah, you can show the bounty program.
Oh, like how it works?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I don't think people realize that's on chain.
The transfer hook or the bounty program?
Either one.
Oh, like how it stores data?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go through that. So this bounty program, let me switch over to a token that lets me actually see it. Okay. So here, all of this data is actually stored on chain, and we'll go through like what that looks like. If you want to go back to the playground link from the beginning, that will show you. So we talked through this a little bit in the beginning, but we can go through a little bit more in depth now since you've interacted with it, even though it didn't work for anyone besides my computer. But we have basically a create journal entry. So this is a simplified version of what's used for the bounty program. I can go into my GitHub and actually show you the real one. But for now, we'll just go through this, and then we'll go into the one that you interacted with. But what it's doing is you can create custom state on chain. So here you have your journal entry state. I always use a journal for a CRUD app just because it's kind of like the most basic understandable of what a CRUD app is. But here we're actually submitting bounties. But it's what do you want to save on chain? Do you want to save like who the user is that submitted the bounty? And you can save information as well. It's any custom data structure that you want to store on chain. And once that's created, you can update the accounts as needed. So the first instruction was just creating an account. So when you submitted a bounty, it creates a new account on chain. And then if you wanted to update the information, you can. So let's say you found a sanctioned entity, but you actually put the wrong address in and you want to update it to make sure the right person has their funds revoked. So you can do that. So all it's doing is updating account state on chain. So it pulls that account. Each account has its own public key associated with it. So it's like this key value pair of I have a public key, and then I have a custom data structure inside of it. So you're able to just update whatever data is saved into that data structure. And anytime you're updating data, because data is stored in an account on Solana, you're having to update how much space it takes up on chain and then update the corresponding rent that you're paying for that new account. And that is, now that I think, that's probably why it didn't work, because you probably didn't have enough SOL in your account to actually pay the rent of the new account. So that is probably what happened. Anyway, you can update and then you can also delete accounts. So if you delete an account, it's going to take that data off chain, remove the account from the Solana blockchain, and then refund you all of the funds that you've paid in rent, because you're no longer storing data on chain. So that is the concept of smart contracts, storing data, and managing data on chain. Yes.
So when you say delete off chain in this system, do you mean that essentially in the next compaction of the underlying system it's cleared, or is like an act? Because again, assuming that you have some sort of fundamental consensus, nothing is deleted except through compaction algorithms, right?
Yeah, so on the next block, if you query the address, it doesn't exist. The data doesn't exist anymore inside of it.
Okay, so querying on the state. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're just talking about the state of the system, not the. Okay.
Yeah.
Quite literally, like these addresses are memory space on the validators.
Yeah, just repeating what Ilan said. The accounts are memory space on the validators. Okay, cool. So that's the data side of things. Now we're gonna go into what's actually happening with this transfer hook. So I'll go here. This is the repo that's been linked on the workshop itself if anyone wants to look into it. But it goes through it has the bounty program for sale, and it also has this admin page that I've been working with if you wanted to check it out. But it also has the source code for the allow list transfer hook. I will link after this because I don't have them linked. If anyone's curious, the GitHub repos for those two websites that we've been working with throughout the workshop, just so you can access those. They also have scripts in them for creating the token, updating metadata. I can never say that word. Metadata on the token. So that'll all be there. I'll link it in this repo right after this workshop. I just didn't want to have it live before the workshop. So you can access all of the codes open source. But going back into the allow list, we can talk about this. So in this allow list folder, this is where your program lives. It's gonna look a little different than the Solana playground that we just looked at, because the Solana playground abstracts all of the complexity to just having your librs file. Here you have the full working workspace. And since this is a program built with the Anchor framework, we talked about earlier, but just to recap, the Anchor framework is a framework built for Solana program development that just simplifies a lot of the code that's needed to create a smart contract. So it does things like serializing and deserializing accounts for you, telling the program entry point and how to process instructions. All of that is encapsulated in macros for you on Anchor. So the code that you write for smart contracts are very, very minimal if you're just using the Anchor framework. So here you can see all of the information needed for Anchor. Is here you have your cargo tomlooks, it's a Rust program. But if I go into the programs folder itself and source, and then librs, this is the program that we're running every time we try to transfer the compliance coin. So what happens when you make the transfer? It's going to attempt to transfer, see that the token has a transfer hook extension enabled on the token itself, and it's going to CPI into that program. So CPI is a cross-program invocation. It's how one program on Solana is able to call another program. So it's going to call this program that you've deployed on chain, and it's going to process the instruction that you specify that needs to be executed and finalized for the transaction to actually take place. So all of that's written inside this code. And like you were asking questions earlier, can we add additional functionality? Yes, you can make this whatever you want. It could not even be an allow list. You could write a program for, and it's both simple terms like a counter, and every time you transfer, it increases the count, and you count how many times this token was transferred. But you can do a lot of different things with a transfer hook. And this is just an example that fit our compliance use case. And we'll go through. So here we have the declare ID. This is the program ID of the program that's going to be deployed on chain. You're importing libraries from just Anchor and Solana program library to be able to have everything you need to interact with a transfer hook extension. So here you have this initialize extra account metas. What this is specifying additional accounts that are needed for the transfer hook to take place. Anytime you process an instruction on chain, specifically in this case a CPI, you have to specify the program that you're CPIing into, which is this declare ID up here. And then you have to specify the data and then the accounts. So every account this instruction interacts with, you need to know what it is for the instruction to process. So this initialize extra accounts is a way to tell the transfer hook, these are the additional accounts that you need to be able to interact with the transfer hook instruction. So that's what that first step is, yeah.
Well, we have a question and then I wanted to
Add some stuff, yeah.
So a couple of questions. So first, is this essentially just doing a binary serialization of the function that's being invoked into the chain? And then second of all, if it's there, how are we not having to pay rent for that?
The question was if this is a...
Essentially, where you're serializing this function in some way.
Oh, serializing the function into the chain. So in order to call this function on chain, you have to know the program ID and then the which instruction it is, and then the data to pass into it. This is the same on most blockchains as well. The additional metadata that's being passed in here, the additional accounts, the reason that Solana requires you to specify all accounts involved in any given transaction when you submit it is to make the system more efficient, because now it knows where contention can be for state. And you can parallelize access to the state, and you can do smarter initialization and access to it. Whereas on like EVM in today's world, on Ethereum, it's all one global state machine that any access to one bit of state costs the same as access to other bits of state. Whereas on Solana, there's like local fee markets enabled, which means that if there is, if a certain president were to decide to drop a meme coin and there's a massive amount of like action on that thing, you and I can still send our transfers for under a penny, even though people that are trying to access that particular account state has to pay a lot more. Yeah.
Cool. So the next step here is execute. So how we were just discussing, it needs to know what instruction to execute on the transfer. This is what it's executing. So you have this interface macro that specifies execute. This is part of Anchor. It kind of just puts all of the logic into the macro for you, so you just have to write that out and then write the instruction underneath. And all it's doing during the transfer is to check to make sure that the wallet address is actually listed on your whitelist. If it's not, then it's going to fail the transfer. If it is, then it's going to allow the transfer to process. And then we have this add to whitelist function as well, which is just the function I got to add all of your wallets into the allow list. And then down here, these are all of the data structures that are stored as your state. So you have all the way down is the whitelist account. So we have the authority, and then we have a vec of public keys that are stored, and it checks through all of these public keys to make sure that you're on this list to be able to allow for the transfer to happen. And then when the transfer hook actually takes place, these are all of the accounts that need to interact with the transfer for it to actually execute the proper instruction. And that's it. So this is your entire smart contract that creates your transfer hook, has the logic that needs to be executed at the time of transfer for the token, has additional instructions to be able to update the state of your allow list on the token, and that's everything that you need to be able to create this allow list transfer hook. Now, you can see this is very simplified, like you're saving a vec of public keys. It's not super optimized. There's other ways to do this that is a lot more efficient, but we wanted to make this as simple as possible. But we do have examples for more efficient ways to do this. If you go to the Solana developers repo, there is a lot of different examples and program examples, but specifically there's an allow list that is more optimized that you can use. So it's Solana developers program, sorry, my typing is horrible, examples, GitHub. And if you go in here, this is just a repository of program examples. It kind of shows you the art of the possible in Solana. But if you go specifically into tokens, and then token 2022, which is the other name for token extensions. We've kind of switched over to token extensions. And then you go, these are all of the extensions that we have available if you're curious on what else exists within Solana to build on your token. But if you go into transfer hook specifically, these are a few different examples of transfer hook programs that have been deployed and you can use on transfer of a token. But if you go into this allow block list token, this is the more optimal version of having an allow list on chain. So yeah, there you go.
Cool. Yeah.
So in this repo, it mentions Rust examples as well as TypeScript and Python. So are those also options for authoring the smart contract as well?
The question was about language support for authoring smart contracts. There are examples here for TypeScript and Python. I think those are just clients, right?
Yeah, so the TypeScript is our client. Python you can actually write smart contracts with. However, the library is not really maintained. I don't know how accurate it is. We have several libraries that you can use to write different smart contracts. Like we have a C one, we have Python, we have, I forget the rest actually, but none of them are really maintained. They were things that different contributors on Solana built for themselves for personal reasons and then open sourced it for anyone to use and then never needed it again and never maintained it. But you can look at them, maybe you want to update it and maintain it. But as of right now, we're just like directing everyone to Rust.
Cool.
Okay, well, that was everything that I have. If anyone has more questions, I'm happy to chat.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty much at time too.
Yeah, perfect.
So you are the developer relation person, right?
Mhm.
Do you have like a page for a program for developers to engage, things like that?
To do self-learning afterwards, is that?
Yeah, or create a solution on top of Solana and so forth, or engage
So,
my community
yeah.
there to learn that.
Little shill, I just started a YouTube that has a bunch of videos explaining
very
how to
good.
build on Solana. And then we have a lot of resources just in general. Like we have Blueshift, if you want to write down, is like a self-paced learning website on how to like build on Solana. And then our documentation. I typically point everyone to this program examples because it's just going straight into source code. But if you do, yeah, video stuff, I do have a YouTube. It's Brimigs. It's
If you
BRI.
want to follow like any presentation I give or like hackathon or stuff like that to engage, that should be, not for myself.
Yeah.
I've coded for a long time, but for my fellows there, I know.
Yeah. So if you wanted to follow up with us later, there are a number of ways. If you are a developer and want to dig in more, as Bree said, follow her on YouTube. Or go to blueshift.gg. They have quite a good series as well that is actively being updated. If you wanted to just engage in the community, if you go to solana.com, I think there's like a events page or something where there's a list of events that happen all over the world. Yeah, in-person meetups as well as yeah, other things that are happening. Would definitely recommend following us there as well.
Console on the park.
Come. I think it redirects anyway.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
There's also like hackathons
Come.
if you're interested. We have Coliseum that happens twice a year, I believe, currently. That is a pretty well-known hackathon. It allows like VCs come to see the project that you build. We like support people building throughout the ecosystem. There's also a mobile hackathon that's happening currently. I think it may have just ended today. But for Solana Mobile, creating different apps on chain. And that happens, I believe, every year. So there's like a lot of hackathons that happen within the space. And if you're looking for more of a not self-paced learning, we have Turbine. Turbine is a boot camp that exists. It's Turbine where the E is actually a 3. But it's a like boot camp that lasts about 2 to 3 months, and it gets you, I think there's 3 workshops per week that you attend, and it gets you leveled up from like no Solana experience to being able to build things like an AMM on chain at its very base level. But that's something you can apply for. To be able to get into it, you do have to have slight Solana development experience as well as just development experience. There is an application, like a little test to take. So if you're in just getting prepared to apply for that, just Solana resources on Solana developers repo I always point to, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. And then also if you ever, there's so many, I love the Solana community. They do like things where right now, actually all month, and there's a whole bunch of people in a in Salt Lake City, in like a different WeWork type space, just hanging out together, coding together. That's called Mountain DAO. There's Island DAO, where a bunch of people do it on an island. It's really cool, especially if you can work remotely. It could be really fun to meet the community and get involved.
Yeah. And if you have any other questions, yeah, just let us know.
Yeah, we'll be here all day.